Shalom and welcome. We are very glad to be together. Sheviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Sheviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. God is always right here by my side. God is always right here by my side. The last time I saw Helaine a few weeks ago, she said, "Gabby, I'm at peace. I've accomplished everything I set out to do. Don and I had a great life. My children are with wonderful partners, and I know they will take care of everything and Don. I don't have a single regret." And Rabbi Michelle Perlman, who Helaine deeply loved, wrote this: "Helaine would want us to express our grief, but she would not want us to despair. For she was not afraid of hard things. She walked countless people through the valley of the shadow, and truly, she is with us now. If someone in your life needs a hand, respond as she would, with a clear offer to help, a strong hineni. If someone needs a hug or a word of encouragement, or even someone to sit with them in a difficult moment, you have the power to be there. If you're feeling today among the fallen, let her lift you still. She was so very generous, and now is time to take stock of what she gave us, to gather that love, to cherish it, and to pass it on. We now link her incredible life with words from those who loved her and sacred texts from thousands of years of Jewish tradition, beginning with beloved friend Cynthia Auerbach.
Never done this before. Such a sad day for so many of us. When Helaine came home from the hospital for end-of-life care, she was driving the bus and continued to do so until days before she died. One of her choices was to neither see nor talk to her so many friends. We connected with her through Don, Ken, and Joanna. After a few weeks, I decided I had to write my goodbyes to Helaine. And this past Thursday night, after Helaine had died, Don asked me to read today the card I sent her. It's not a eulogy, but a very personal description of the role Helaine played in my life. And I wrote, "Dear Helaine, while I miss seeing and talking to you, I understand and support your decisions and choices on with whom you choose to connect. However, I need to tell you how much you have meant to me and how much I have learned from you over the decades of our friendship. Of course, the fun adventures, great trips, our Berkshires and Longboat Key extended visits, birthday celebrations, restaurants and home dinners, New York theater, and more have been very memorable. But more important to me, your generosity and your amazing ability to listen, interact, advise, and support have all had a positive effect on who I am and who who I aspire to be. As I told Don, no one will leave more people with more and bigger holes in their lives than you will. Your ability to connect with others and to empathize and support them is amazing. All the energy and time you have spent with others is rightfully being returned to you now. I know that I'm just one of many in the queue. I admire your resilience and control of your end-of-life care, and how good for you to have the amazing love, support, and devotion of Don, Ken, and Joe, your wonderful family. I'm walking a line of wanting to do and not wanting to be intrusive, but please know that Phil and I are here for whomever and whatever. Thank you for being my wonderful friend. Love, Sim. Now I need to add some thoughts about our local group of friends. With the Rothmans, the Salomons, the Seligmans, the Sills, the Kaplans, and Foxes, all of whom are here today. Together we traveled the world, celebrated holidays and birthdays, and as we are doing now, supported each other through difficult times. We all have wonderful memories. But if we're fortunate, we also learn from our good friends. They make us better people. I feel and hope that Helaine played that role in my life. And I'm ending with 2 quotes for Don, Ken, and Joe. They both popped up on my computer. The first, a few weeks ago, is a Viktor Frankl quote. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And the second, a few days ago, challenges make you discover things about yourself that you never really knew, and that's from Cicely Tyson. Helaine will be proud of you accepting the challenges ahead.
Thank you, Cindy. We now call Helaine's dear friend and colleague, Sister Maggie Lopez.
Good afternoon, Rabbi. Good afternoon, Cantor. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for welcoming representatives of the American Cancer Society and the Cancer Action Network to your beautiful temple, your place of worship. I was invited to speak about some of my friend Helaine's contributions to the American Cancer Society and the Cancer Action Network. And I said yes right away. I was so honored by Joanna's call. I first met Helaine approximately 10 years ago. Compared to the rest of you, that seems like a short time, but 10 years is quite a while. But long before we met, Helaine had been a volunteer with the American Cancer Society for over 30 years. I would like to share with you just a few of her contributions, very few, to both organizations. Helaine served as chair of the board for the Monmouth and Ocean chapters of the American Cancer Society, and during her tenure as board chair, she oversaw a $1 million capital campaign for the Jersey Shore headquarters. She was head of a volunteer task force who met with outside companies and organizations to talk to employees about prevention and early detection of cancer. She also visited high schools and talked with the students about the importance of good health. As a nurse and as a person, she was there for everyone. For over 8 years, Helaine served as a research stakeholder at the American Cancer Society's national headquarters in Atlanta, where she evaluated cancer research proposals submitted for funding. And may I just say that there is a term of office that you serve doing these, looking at these funding proposals. But Patty told me that she was invited twice again to come and be part of this effort. Helaine was always totally dedicated to the mission of the American Cancer Society, and she was the recipient of the St. George Award. This is the most distinguished award given by the National Office for Volunteer Excellence. She was also the recipient of the Crimson Award for her many contributions to the fight against cancer. As I mentioned earlier, Helaine and I met 10 years ago, maybe a little longer, when she became a volunteer advocate for the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. She joined our volunteer team in lobbying federal officials on Capitol Hill and New Jersey legislators in Trenton. Dedication from volunteers such as Helaine's has been essential for us in achieving major legislative victories on the state and federal levels. Our volunteer staff connection grew into a very special friendship, one based on trust and mutual respect. Through the years, we have shared much, talked much, and laughed much. Time spent on the phone, and Don, you can testify to this, with very, very long conversation. Visiting each other's homes, trips to the city, as Cynthia mentioned, to see plays, musicals, even share Sunday afternoon high tea at the plaza. And then one more recent adventure, it was right before the pandemic hit. The three of us, Joanna, Helaine, and me, we went on a New York City tour of the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. You have to love that. So what I want to say now is, so long for now, my very dear and sweet friend. May the journey ahead be full and filled with peace until we meet again. Thank you.
Now we call up Semyon.
Today, we're saying goodbye to our beloved Helaine. She fought bravely against this horrible disease, but unfortunately, the disease prevailed. My heart breaks. My brain refuses to accept that I'll never see her and talk to her again. Helaine was an incredible person. She was loved by many, many people. And she helped so many people that it's hard to count. She never hesitated to help sick people, share good advice, share money, and many, many other ways. She had extreme sense of responsibility. I will never forget when we once visited Helaine and Don on Longboat Key in Florida. Helaine was busy reviewing applications for grants of American Cancer Society. Approximately half of the room was filled with thick volumes of applications. And while Don went fishing, Diana and me enjoyed Florida sun. Helaine kept reading applications. I believe she read all of them from A to Z. To my wife and me, Helaine's passing is a tremendous loss. After Marina and Ken got married, Rothmans and us became more than just in-laws. We became friends. We became brothers and sisters. Helaine and Don embraced us with all their hearts. Being recent immigrants, we learned a lot from them about life in America, and will cherish forever our holidays together, Passover's in Red Bank, Thanksgivings in Vermont, Kirill's birthdays in Colorado, and many, many more. Helaine was always the heart and soul of these unforgettable events. We'll miss Helaine so much. We'll always hold her in our hearts, and we'll always be thankful to our destiny that brought us to know and love her. And finally, I want to say to Don, Don, you're my hero. Your devotion, your self-sacrifice is nothing short of heroic. Thank you.
Okay, Joanna, at Ken, and you're coming up together with your and Ted and Marina. Okay. Okay. Where do you want everybody to? They're going to be supporting you.
We'll stay out of the way.
Don't stay out of the way. Okay. Well, Marina's going to say something. I have a couple. All right, so we'll sit here, and you guys go. Marina, you sit, and then you'll go. Okay. When I asked Mom what she wanted me to say in her eulogy, she said to stress that she had no regrets, and she encouraged us to celebrate her life. I lived a great life, Joe, she told me. So today, I ask you to share in celebrating Helaine and her courage, compassion, love, and strength. My mother was the strongest woman I've known. In some ways, there was an invisible line dividing Mom's life before and after her cancer diagnosis in 2018. But in truth, she was very much her authentic self, regardless of her own health. My mother was known for providing support to others, and she continued to do this even while undergoing chemotherapy or recovering from major surgery. I was amazed by that despite her own turmoil, she was still able to sit on the phone for hours on end and administer her wisdom, offering words of strength and support to others. Where does she find this inner strength? I used to wonder. Since Mom had been a hospice social worker, she was well-versed in handling conversations about the end of life. When I needed help addressing something related to her health, I would say, "Mom, what would you tell you?" And then I was the one on the receiving end of the wisdom. There are two particular Helainisms I've been carrying around for years. First, my mom used to always say to me, "Always tell the truth. You can never go wrong with being honest." She was right. The other thing she used to say, "You can't control anyone else's actions. You can only control your own." That piece of wisdom has served me so well in life, especially in the workplace. She encouraged me not to sweat the small stuff, and I'm still working on that one. Besides giving advice, Mom was also extremely passionate about music. Mom may not have been able to carry a tune, but she loved to belt out a song, especially in this sanctuary. I used to make faces at her when she'd sing along here. I can still picture the tears in her eyes when she'd hear Rabbi Perlman and Cantor Glissold sing. Mom brought Ken and me to Broadway plays and musicals as soon as we could sit still in our seats. We have memories seeing their playing our song, Annie, Phantom, Miss Saigon, Anything Goes, Rent. We had a chance to see Barbra Streisand, her favorite, together a few years ago. She reminded me that she had seen Barbra perform opening night for Drat the Cat in 1965, and it proceeded to close the next day. When she loved something or someone, she gave it her all. Speaking of loving with her all, let's take a minute to look at Helaine and Don together. They were wonderful role models to Ken and me, celebrating their 52nd wedding anniversary this past June. In 2019, my parents renewed their vows in front of their closest family and friends, which was an incredible experience to witness. As Ken, Marina, Kirill, and I held the chuppah poles, I saw my now husband Ted and felt such a sense of pride and peace at the family we had all become. 2 years later, this past May, Ted and I got married in my parents' living room. Mom was too weak to join us downstairs, so we set her up with an iPad and she watched us from the comfort of her own bed. I can't put into words the significance of that moment. Mom got to see me get married to the love of my life. We will all cherish that for the rest of our lives. Mom had an incredible thirst for knowledge, which manifested through her love of travel and devouring the latest bestseller from the New York Times book list. She would sit with her cup of coffee and every morning and read the newspaper from cover to cover. But let's be honest, her favorite section was modern love. She loved a good love story and was always scouring the paper for the most romantic or unique love story. She would weep over the way we were and when we saw beaches together. And did she love reviewing the style section on Sundays? She was always up on the latest trends, and her closet, which was packed to the brim, was filled with the most stylish items. Joe, do you want to go on a shopping trip to New York? And off we'd go, visiting our favorite floors of Saks and Bloomies, concluding with a Chardonnay and chatter at the cafe, complimenting each other repeatedly on the beautiful makeovers we just got at Henry Bendel's. I can still picture us coming in with all of the packages and putting on a fashion show for Ken and Dad. And as I look around this sanctuary, and as we've heard in the other eulogies, I know every person here has their own memories and shared experiences with my mother. She knew just how to make you feel like you were the only person in the room and her complete focus was on you. She listened, she observed, and she cared. My dad recently asked Mom what it was about her. What magic did she possess to get so many people to divulge their deepest secrets? And she smiled and pointed, and she said, "It's the face." And she gave him her toothy grin. We'll all cherish that smile and, of course, that face. Barbra sang beautifully these words in The Way We Were. I encourage you to sing along in your heads. Memories light the corners of my mind, misty watercolor memories of the way we were, scattered pictures of the smiles we left behind for the way we were. Love you always, Mom.
I'm going to let her talk.
Helaine was so important to so many people, to so many communities. But today I want to be selfish. I want to talk about how important she was to me. Sorry, it's going to be difficult. I've known Helaine for 20 years. When I first met her, when Ken brought me home to meet his parents, I fell in love with her and Don both. And I knew then that I'm going to marry Ken because I just loved them so much. The whole family. It was truly incredible. They welcomed my whole family with open arms. My parents, my son, and we became the family. She always treated me with utmost love and respect. She treated me like her own daughter. She never criticized me, corrected me, never had any bad word or thing to say to me. It was truly, truly incredible and truly special. She was so supportive to us over the years. Every single occasion, every single difficult situation, we consulted with her, and she had always supportive things to say. She always, always supported us, gave us her love, gave us her support, gave us everything she had. She was truly a role model for me. She was so generous. We have so much that she has given us, from the furniture, the cars, the Waterford crystals, the holidays, the presents, everything, everything. But my favorite thing lately to do with her was to reminisce about her family and to listen to her talk about her family and her son. Helaine and I shared love for her son, for Kenny. And it was truly, truly incredible, truly special. I will miss her terribly. Thank you.
Helaine Rothman was an amazing angel on earth. She spent her entire life taking care of people. As a young woman growing up in Framingham, Massachusetts, she became a nurse after study at the Framingham Union Nursing School. And her father and mother, by the time she finished, had transferred to New York as he worked with IBM. So upon graduation, she took a position at Bronx Municipal Hospital, now called Jacobi, and she was quickly promoted to the head surgical nurse at a very young age. And it was here she met a young surgical intern, Don Rothman. She also met her lifelong friend, Charlie Sills. And all the doctors had the deepest respect for Helaine. She was outstanding at her work. And eventually, Don realized that there was this, these are his words, beautiful, smart Jewish woman right in front of his eyes. And their partnership, which began with the deepest respect, grew into love. And at that time, Don enlisted, and as a young couple, they moved to Camp Pendleton for boot camp. And Don explained to me that it was boot camp and it was difficult, but they modified it a bit for the medical staff. But you said you lost a lot of weight and you worked hard at boot camp. And then he was shipped off overseas to serve in Vietnam. And eventually, Don was transferred back to the United States and finished off his service at Portsmouth, Virginia, at the naval base. Their housing was being built, and they were living in a hotel. They told me a great story about how Helaine heard sirens, and it came to be that a very serious fire had occurred, and some of the things in their apartment were destroyed. And I think she was said to me that throughout their life, you joked when something was missing, it had been lost in that fire. But after Don's naval career, they moved to Monmouth County, and Don began to work with Dr. Alan Kendall, which was great because Charlie and Carol were here. And then they made many, many friends whom they remained deeply connected to. We were laughing because I said it sounded, their list of friends, like a Jewish law firm. The law firm of Sills, Weisbrot, Auerbach, Cohen, Seligman, Solomon, Fox, Kaplan, and Goldsmith, just to name a few, And then, in the spirit of inclusiveness, they also had their dear friends, the Paulas and the Del Campos. Now, living in Lincroft at the time, they had Kenny, who claims he was the darling of the neighborhood. And in addition to devoting herself to Don and Kenny and Joanna, Helaine was truly a professional volunteer. She worked extremely hard for a number of organizations, and she worked closely with Monmouth Reform Temple and Rabbi Prezand on a number of projects, and she especially loved our arts festival. She really loved to work at the arts festival to get an early sneak peek at the art, and she brought along little Joanna, jokingly, in a bucket. And Joanna remembers meeting Sems Brightman, who was then the head of the festival. And from these early events with Helaine, Joanna eventually made a t-shirt that said, "Proudly volunteering since 1974. Now, Don and Helaine moved to Middletown, and they decided to shift the kids to Ranney. Kenny was so brilliant, they wanted to make sure that he had every chance to accelerate his education, after it turned out his public school teacher did not realize that that little devil could already read. So they moved the kids to Ranney. Helaine and Don were serious about the kids always getting the best, and when she realized that the kids needed to learn about the importance of volunteerism, Helaine herself called the headmaster of Ranney to make sure that they were taught this. And this is probably why Helaine went also on to further her education by getting a certificate in volunteer management and then a BS in counseling at Thomas Edison. Helaine officially went back to work when the kids were a little older, and she used her new credentials to help people by starting the hospice program at Riverview Hospital. She was an ardent supporter of Planned Parenthood and worked with Phyllis Kinsler. She worked with Sister Maggie Lopez through her acclaimed work with the American Cancer Society, and she received numerous awards, also including the Hannah Solomon Award from the National Council of Jewish Women, and, as Maggie said, the St. George Award. Because of her lifetime of work, and in recent years, she was brought to Atlanta to work with the doctors and scientists to decide which studies to fund. It really is extraordinary how intrinsic they felt having Helaine there was. To prepare for this, as you said, she had to read copious amounts of documents, and she sat on these panels as a deeply respected colleague with scientists and physicians who wanted Helaine Rothman's thoughts and perspectives. And when Sandy hit, Helaine was on the team formed by Rabbi Perlman that raised over $10,000 in gift cards to support those who had lost so much in our local community. And she and Rabbi Perlman helped to found the Bikur Cholim Network through our local Jewish Federation, where she trained and engaged volunteers to visit in the local hospitals. Helaine was a trusted health educator in the Middletown High School system, and Joanna and Kenny had many friends who attended her classes that were affectionately called boobs and balls. Much to her children's embarrassment, but to the delight of Kenny and Joanna's friends, who loved learning with Helaine. Helaine proudly also had medical models in her car of anatomy that she drove around for educational purposes, which made Joanna crazy, but now we all look back on it and laughed so hard. Helaine was loved by everyone. She and Don and their friends had so many great trips together, and you can see this in the thousands of photos that Don has taken. And all of their incredible friends were an ever-growing adopted family. And during Hurricane Sandy, she welcomed the Seligmans and the Dankers to stay in her home. Helaine was our angel, our support in any storm. And everyone and anyone at Monmouth Reformed Temple who worked with Helaine on any committee or who was helped by her outstanding work to help us establish a caring committee, all forever changed by her wisdom and her love. I, too, relied on Helaine with pastoral work, and I, too, relied on Helaine in my own life when I needed her guidance. I've had some very challenging times, and I'm saying this because it's anecdotal of conversations that we've all had with Helaine. Once I called to tell her how I was struggling, and truthfully, I was so sick of my own problems. Helaine was so validating, and she said, "Gabby, what you're going through is awful, and it's okay to be sad." How many of us called her and had a similar conversation with her? She was always that rock for us, so many of us. Now, in the last 2 years, she has fought valiantly through illness and side effects and treatment, but always wanted to live as normally as possible. She continued helping people, and she would check in here at synagogue and helped us keep our caring committee afloat and remained active in adult education, still being an angel to her friends and her family, always so joyous despite her illness, because Kenny and Marina were so happy, and she and Don were thrilled to watch Kirill grow up. Helaine was incredibly grateful that Joanna and Ted fell in love, and she got 2 more grandchildren, Ryan and Jackson. She truly felt her cup runneth over. Helaine loved everyone and had the biggest heart. Although I mentioned many here by name, there are hundreds of people whom she loved, cherished, and supported. Her beloved cousins, some related and some she claimed through marriage in the family, her family in Massachusetts, her community and her friends through volunteerism, her temple family, her Machatanim, all the grandchildren of her lifelong friends, all of us were embraced by this angel on earth. And when her time came, Joanna, Ted, Marina, and Don gave her the most incredible gift, because there was not a day, not a moment, not a second when Helaine was not surrounded by your love. And you could see it in her face, because even though she was in her hospital bed, her beauty was still luminous. Somehow, she lifted everyone who was blessed to be in her presence. In our tradition, we are taught about the Nistarim. At all times, our tradition tells us that there are 36 people in the world called the Nistarim. And were it not for them, all of them, if one of them was missing, the whole world would come to an end. And these people hold up the world. I am convinced that Helaine Rothman was one of these people. Zichron Tzedek Livracha. May you rest in peace, beloved Helaine. And let us all say Amen. Ki imcha mikor chaim, ki imcha mikor chaim, ki imcha mikor chaim, ki imcha mikor chaim. For in you is the source of life. For in you is the source of life. For in you is the source of life. In your light do we see light. 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 Please rise for El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Mamromim, Amtsei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Shechina, Im Kedoshim Utorim, Kezaragi Hamazirim, Et Nishmat, Hesibat Rubi Vejon, Shahalha, Shahal Olamim, Baal Harachamim, Yastireha B'Setu Knafav Lolamim, Bitzror, Bitzror, Achayim and Nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata, V'tanu ach b'shalom, b'shalom al mishkava, v'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Helaine Rothman, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say Amen. At this time, for those of you who are coming to the cemetery, we're going to proceed to our cars as quickly as possible. And anybody who would like to come back to the Rothman home tonight at 5 o'clock is welcome to do so. We just ask that you are vaccinated. And Shiva will continue tomorrow again with a service at 4:30 p.m. And on behalf of the Rothman family, you give them so much comfort by being here. It means so much to them to have you here. And we thank everyone for coming today. Thank you. Will the pallbearers please come forward? If everyone will allow the Rothman, their close family, to come out first and to proceed to their vehicles.